So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Ying. Ying is from the Shan ethnic group and grew up in northern Shan state, Myanmar. Today, she lives in Thailand and is the education program coordinator for the Shan Women's Action Network. Ying will be sharing a story that explores life without any feeling of safety or security. So Ying, the floor is now yours.
ไม่ทรงค่ะ Good morning everyone. How do you feel after our discussion about my question? Yeah, let me share my story. Even ever since I can remember, I have never felt safe when I was a little girl. Around 1996 to 1998, my family lived in a small village. The Burmese army, or we call Damador, has established several army camps in my hometown, and one was located in my village. As such, it was very common to see many Burmese soldiers in my village, which were very afraid, as I had heard from other people say that they were rude, they were arrested, and even killed people. I remember one time, my father had to run away as the soldier will arrest him. They arrived at our home and they want to arrest because they thought my father sent food and other supply to Shan State Army. When the soldier approached our house, my father ran out to hide. They burst into our living room, pointing their rifle to my mother and me, while saying that, "Where is your husband?" Yeah, since my mother could not understand or could not know Burmese language, so I have to translate for her what the soldier were screaming. My mother and I replied that we did not know where was my father, but they didn't believe me, and they told me to go and find my father around my house or in the compound. And when I went to find my father, at the time my father said, "Don't tell them I am where I am." And then I know that I should keep my father. And when I came back to in the house, I was very shaken when I saw the soldier. They did not believe me when I told them that I could not find my father, and shout why, waving their guns. And they said, "Tomorrow we will return." Yeah, I'm very scared, And my father has to stay away from our home for a month after that day. During that time, there was a fighting between Burmese army and Shan State Army in Central Shan State. At that time, not only my village, there are also many villagers spread their home from the Central Shan State to Southern Shan State. Soon, many villagers arrived to my village, and then our villager also have to run away, and they are not allowing us to remain in our home. And the following day, my mother asked me after we ran away from our home, and she said, "Do you want to go to return our home?" I said, "Yes, sure, I want to go back to my home." but our community leader not allow us to return as it's still not safe for us. We had to stay with our relative for about a month. Since my father left home, I had not seen him and wondered what happened to him. During that time, I want to go home. I want to play with my father. I want to go to school, but it was not safe to do so. So my mother also tried to find out what's happened to my father. And eventually we learned that my father is living near the Thai-Burma border. Yeah. After we hear that this news is what a really great news for us, for me and for my mother. And but you know, our life, my mother and me, life was remained in a confusion as we could not return home yet. The Burmese army not allow us to go back to our home for about a year. This means that although we could occasionally visit to see the condition of our house, our garden, but we could not remain in the village overnight. You know, when we finally returned to our village, the Burmese soldier has totally destroyed our house, took all our possessions, and destroyed our village Buddhist temple in my village. You know, I was not the only person whose life was destroyed during this time. Many other people has to flee from their village to go to save their life. You know, during that time, my parents' plans were over. My mother did not have a job, and my father was living somewhere near the Thai-Burma border. I was very sad as I realized that I would no longer be able to continue my education. It was also sad to feel that all of my parents' hope and dream for the future, which were based on my academic success, were no longer possible. I have to stop at school for 1 year. They closed all the school. I began to help my mother to grow vegetable in our garden to sell in the local market. We earn a small amount of money to support our family. Growing vegetable and rice also allow us to help less fortunate people in our community, as the Burmese army destroyed everything, including our garden. This was the situation that I and many other Shan villagers faced when we returned to our home after the fighting. You see the present situation in Burma is not much different than when I faced in Shan State as a child. The Burmese army, which we call the Damodar, has been abusing its power for many decades. One of the major differences is that the latest conflict has crime against humanity are being committed against the Burmese ethnic group as well as other ethnic groups in Burma. In the past, you know, the Damodar or the Burmese military generally oppressed and abused only the ethnic minority. For decades, there have been many internal displaced person camps along the border area in the Shan, Kachin, and Chin state. Many of the Indonesians have stayed in this camp for decades, with little, if any, chance to return to their home or to be repatriated to the third country. In summary, the crime committed by the Damodar continue from year to year, decade to decade, with little change. Homes are destroyed, people are tortured and killed. Why the rest of the world merely look on? One of the major differences is that nowadays the technically has changed. The Damodar can use helicopters as is recently this in current state. to destroy villages and kill innocent civilians rather than only gun and mortar shells. The way the Democrat acts is not human. They rather look like white animals. But their actions are not new for me. They have been doing so far for many, many years. When I read the news or saw the news, what is recently occurring all over Burma, there is so much that I want to say to make people better understand what is happening in my country or in my homeland. Or I will say that my home, my village. Yeah. I had to leave my home and land because I did not feel safe. But I am now the only one. There are millions of migrant people, migrant workers from Burma working in Thailand and other neighboring countries. Do you think that if conditions were normal in Burma, so many people would leave their home to work on 3D jobs? Difficult, dirty, and dangerous. Yeah. Ever since I was born, I have never felt that I have lived in a safe place. It may sound strange, but this is how I feel. My father also, who is now past over 70 years, also felt that he never felt safe in the Shan State, Burma. However, I am currently now living in Thailand. Would like to say that I am living in safe place and happy because my father somehow divided excellent plan for my future. And that's why after I graduated high school from Burma, he took me to Thailand. He told me that as soon as I met him, he told me that my daughter, you have to try, even if I am not longer here on this earth. You have to be strong. You have to stand on your own feet until our country become a freedom or democracy. Yeah. And this is the reason why I try my best and working for the people in my community. I hope near future change. Thank you everyone for listening my story. Thank you. Mai Sung Kha.
Thì